Hello, I'm the pageant nerd bringing you another fresh and nerdy look at the world of beauty pageants. I know I said I'd be taking a TPN break over the festive season and my holiday from my day job, but I couldn't resist pulling together a quick year in review clip covering the main pageant headlines of the year. Not necessarily each of the pageants individually. Spoiler alert, this isn't going to be a stats-laden, fact and figure heavy clip. It's mainly just me chatting about some of the year's biggest stories. To be honest, my brain is still recovering from pulling together my Miss Universe rap, so please forgive me for the change of pace today. Anyway, with so many newsworthy goings-on across the various international and some national pageants, here's my 2023 year in review. Here we go. It wouldn't be a year in review of pageants without a look at who took the titles this year. So here's a quick Sash summary. In chronological order, the first big international pageant given out was Miss Supranational in Poland, with Ecuador's Andrea Aguilera winning her country's fourth Grand Slam crown, adding to their 2 Miss Earths and 1 Miss International. Peru's Luciana Fuster took the Miss Grand International title, this year held in Vietnam. It was Peru's second title in the Thai-owned competition, having also won in 2017. Venezuela scored its 9th Miss International title thanks to Andrea Rubio, extending its lead for the most Big Four crowns with 24. It also ties the 9 Miss Universe crowns the USA has, the most any country has won at a single Big Four pageant. Speaking of Big Fours, Miss Universe saw a first ever victory for the Central American nation of Nicaragua, with Shanice Palacios delivering on her favoritism to win her country's first major international title. And just before Christmas, Albania broke through for its first ever Big Four title, or any major international crown for that matter, taking Miss Earth in Vietnam. And here's a look at a slightly longer summary of major international titles decided this calendar year. As many of you would know, there was no Miss World held in the 2023 calendar year. More on that shortly. Here's an updated leaderboard of the Big Four pageants. And adding in Supranational and Miss Grand International, dare I call it the Big Six, just this once. In the world of Misters, Kim Jin-wook took Korea's second Man of the World title, Spain won Mr. Supranational, Thailand's Kim Goodburn was named Mr. International, and India's Jason Dylan Bretfeline was victorious at Mr. Global. Those 3 wins were the first for their countries in those pageants. I'll get to more on the male pageants a little later, but now that we've run through the major winners, let's switch it up to the major headlines of 2023. As you just saw, it was a dominant year for the Latinas, taking 2 of the 3 Big Fours held in 2023. And again, adding Supra and Grand, Latinas won 4 of the 5 titles contested, that's excluding Miss World. And in all but one of those 5 pageants, an Asian queen was the first runner-up. Philippines at Supranational and Earth, Myanmar at Grand, and Thailand at Universe. Having said that, the tables were turned in the male pageants, with Asia sweeping most of the titles, though the Latinos dominated Mr. Supranational, taking the top 2 spots. The general trend these days has been for international title holders to be older than in previous years, and this looks set to continue, with Miss Supranational increasing its upper age limit to 32 from the 2023 pageant, and Miss Universe removing theirs altogether from 2024 onwards. In fact, while Miss Universe's age limit remained 28 for the 2023 competition, 2 women actually competed in El Salvador who exceeded that limit. Representatives from Bulgaria and Latvia were aged 30 and 29 years respectively, seemingly an acknowledgement of the impending rule change. Male pageants, including supranational and international, also allow men in their early 30s to compete. Following on from that, and Miss Universe 2023 was overflowing with examples of a diverse field, not only in competitors, but even semi-finalists. We had the first married woman and mother place since the recent rule change, and indeed Colombia's Camila Avella went on to reach the top 5. As I covered on Instagram, she's not the first mother to make the final rounds, but she was indeed the first married woman to advance that far. Also making the semis for the first time was a trans woman, a plus-size contestant, and Spain's first black woman to represent her country. Personally, I'm a huge supporter of this diversity. A number of people have commented on previous clips of mine, namely my Miss Universe Trailblazers, that married women, mothers, and trans women should compete in separate pageants, and that plus-size women shouldn't be taking the spot of someone else in the semis. But I think it's been made abundantly clear that women's beauty standards, acceptance of trans people, gender fluid people, and those with different lived experiences, especially outside of pageantry, is diversifying. And therefore, forcing people into their own niche pageants is essentially othering them. If you don't know what I mean by that, I'll include a link in the description for further reading. Furthermore, whether a woman has reproduced or gotten married should have no impact on her ability to compete or even win a title, if she feels she's up to the task. Judging by the determination shown by Camila Avella at Miss Universe, it was clear that her marital and motherhood status had no negative bearing on her desire to win the title. Like in other aspects of society, why should a woman's reproductive rights be dictated by others? And as many of you would know, we've got a mother selected to represent none other than Venezuela at Miss Universe 2024 in Mexico. So basically, this diversity at Miss Universe is here to stay. So get used to it, I say. On the flip side is another major pageant that's majorly devoid of diversity. Miss International is the third longest running international competition around after Miss World and Miss Universe, and it's certainly the one that appears to be sticking to its traditions. The format of the pageant finals night changes at a glacial pace year to year, if at all. And the 2023 edition was notable for the crowning of Venezuela for a record-extending 9th time, which also meant Africa is still yet to win this title after 61 stagings. Things were looking promising when Uganda placed second runner-up in 2019 and Cabo Verde finished first runner-up in 2022. But in 2023, Côte d'Ivoire's top 15 result was the only placement by an African queen. Prior to the 2023 pageant, Miss International officials made it clear that skin colour is irrelevant, while also stating that preliminary judging would be strictly based on body proportions and skin quality, demonstrating to me a lack of self-awareness and that they've still got some way to go in their diversity journey. It was somewhat predictable that new owners of the Miss Universe organisation would lead to some aftershocks across that pageant's ecosystem, but few would have predicted the extent of the damage. Firstly, with a poorly managed process in renewing national franchises, a number of holders decided to relinquish their licenses. Others, including Putri Indonesia, were blindsided when changes in franchise holders were announced without prior warning. Matters were made worse when the new Miss Universe Indonesia organisers faced multiple allegations of inappropriate conduct during the pageant. Contestants forced to be inspected and photographed topless for supposed checks of scars and cellulite. The licence holders, led by Poppy Capella, were stripped of their franchises in both Indonesia and Malaysia. Longtime talent director of the MUO, Esther Swan, known as the title holder's surrogate mum during the year of their reign, stood down from her position during 2023. Then, financial troubles of new owners JKN Global Group were made public on the eve of Miss Universe 2023. their owner Anne Jakapong Jakrajutitip, making it very clear they hadn't declared bankruptcy. Whether related or not, during the pageant festivities in El Salvador, Paula Shugart made the shock announcement that she was resigning from her position as head of the Miss Universe organisation. The speech Paula gave was loaded with insinuations of disharmony and a misalignment of values between her and JKN, and also notable for not mentioning Kun An by name at all during the address.
There's a critical difference between declaring the words transformational leadership and being a real transformational leader. Transformational leadership is not about one person. It can and it must be about putting the needs of the team above all else in creating a vision for the future.
In the wake of Miss Universe, we've also had some state directors in the Miss USA system standing down, citing a lack of transparency at both the national and international levels of the pageant administration. And to add a final bit of spice to round out the year, Kun An went on a social media tirade against one-time friend Samira Shah, who was one of the judges for the Voice for Change competition, but quickly got in the bad books for allegedly spreading false rumours about future ownership of the Miss Universe organisation. The two alpha pageants, Miss Universe and Miss World, have had trouble in recent years nailing down host locations for their pageants. Miss Universe, in the IMG era, had a habit of announcing their venue at the last minute, but that seems to have been solved, at least for now, in the JKN era. Miss World has also had a couple of missteps, and not all of those can be blamed on COVID, which understandably forced the cancellation or postponement of multiple international pageants in the past few years. In February 2023, Miss World Chief Julia Morley announced the United Arab Emirates would host the next pageant later that year, with more details to follow. But just 4 months later, India was revealed as the new host country, with no explanation of the move away from the UAE. To be originally held in December 2023, the pageant was then moved to March 2024, owing to local elections taking place in India at the end of 23. This follows a mysterious change of location for the 2019 edition. Thailand was originally selected to host, but London was then announced as the eventual location, with Thailand set to host the 70th edition in 2020. That never happened due to COVID, and Thailand hasn't been mentioned again as a potential host nation. All in all, this means that since the 2019 pageant was held in December of that year, Miss World has been staged a grand total of once. Not ideal for the longest running and arguably one of the two most prestigious pageants in the world. You would have expected the Central American nation of Nicaragua to explode with pride and celebrations after Shanice Palacios' Miss Universe victory in November. And indeed, that was the case in the hours after her coronation. But given Shanice's participation in anti-regime protests in 2018, which was known to the authoritarian government before Miss Universe, things turned sour very quickly. All public celebrations were banned, and Shanice and her long-serving national director, Karen Celeberti, were banned from returning to Nicaragua. Karen promptly announced her resignation from the national directorship amid fears for her safety and that of her family. As Miss Universe, Shanice has relocated to New York and will spend much of her reign travelling the world. But sadly, a triumphant homecoming appears to be impossible at this stage, let alone whether she can return home after she gives up her title in Mexico later this year. I don't know if it was just a personal increase in interest, but I tend to think the male pageants have gained a bit more traction this year, with some impressive winners, namely Spain at Mr. Supranational, Thailand at Mr. International, and India at Mr. Global. Mr. Supranational in particular had a very high standard of contestants. And personally, being an online evaluator for the Miss and Mr. Super Chat this year was a great opportunity to delve a little deeper into the world of male pageantry. you can expect a bit more male pageant coverage from me in the coming year. I haven't done a tabulation across the pageants, so this is far from an official list, but I wanted to give a shout out to a few nations, in random order, that performed especially well in multiple competitions last year. Colombia didn't pick up an international title, but with a top 5 at Universe, first runner-up at International, second runner-up at Grand, top 6 at Charm, and fourth runner-up at Intercontinental, their queens posted a series of great results. Peru took its second Grand International, won the delayed Reina Hispanoamericana 2022 last March, placed top 10 at Universe, second runner-up at International, and top 12 at Supranational. Thailand had an amazing year, picking up Mr. International and numerous minor women's titles, Intercontinental, Tourism International, Miss Planet International, and Miss Aura International. And of course, finishing first runner-up at Miss Universe, top 7 at International, and making top 4 at Miss Earth. And last but certainly not least, the Philippines had first runner-up finishes at Supranational and Earth, third runner-up at International, top 10 at Universe, and second runner-up at the Miss Globe. Maybe not the crown-filled season that was hoped for, but a great year nonetheless. Congratulations to all the top-performing nations in 2023. That's a wrap on my look at the major headlines in the world of pageantry in 2023. What surprises do we have in store in 2024? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Wishing you all the best for a happy and healthy 2024, and of course hoping for an exciting year of pageants ahead. I'm the Pageant Nerd. Bye for now.